Hello everyone, my name is Roya and today I'm going to be sharing with you the 5 books that I've read so far in September. This is a little bit early for a September wrap-up part 1 because I'm filming this on the 10th and so it's not even really halfway through the month, but I'm not really gonna have a whole lot of chances to film this month just because my band is playing out of town so much that my weekends are pretty much gonna be spent entirely out of town. So yeah, I figured that I would just do this now. The first book that I would like to talk about is Why God is a Woman by Nina Andrews, and this is a book that is written in poetry about a society in which women are the people in charge and men are sexualized by women. And basically, this book is kind of weird. You don't really notice that it's poetry while you're reading it at all. It's told from the point of view of a male character in that society, and the society as we know it does exist. It's just this island, this fictional island in which it's the reverse. So this book really, it kind of gives you the picture that the roles are literally reversed. Women's roles in society are literally what men's roles are as we know them, and vice versa. So there's a male version of a Barbie doll, and there's all kinds of other satirical things that is the kind of crap that men go through in this fictional island is what women go through in society as we know it. And I really loved this book. I thought it was worth every penny, but I felt like sometimes it went so over the top with the satire that I kind of felt like it would have been better and have more hard-hitting relevance if it hadn't done that. So for example, there's this whole thing about men having to get rid of their body hair, and obviously, that's totally a necessary thing to have in here because it's really shitty that women have to worry about their body hair in the world as we know it. But I thought it was it went really over the top because basically the way on this island that men get rid of their body hair is by this, horrible, painful process that burns off the top layer of your skin so that your hair falls out. And I kind of thought, why did that need to be exaggerated? It's already, what women actually have to go through is already bad enough. And so it would have been more relevant and more, people would have understood it more if it hadn't gone into this exaggerated thing with that. So there was the occasional weird thing about that I kind of felt did we need that? But overall, I loved reading this. It's a really quick read too. Next, I read Timeless, Diego and the Rangers of the Vast Atlantic by Armand Baltazar, and this comes out on October 3rd, I think? Not October 9th or something. I got this arc at Y'all West. This is the last arc from Y'all West that I still hadn't read, so I'm glad I got to it. This is basically, it takes place in a world where all time periods kind of collided and are existing at the same time. And don't try to figure out how the heck that would work because it makes your brain hurt. Because I kind of had a hard time believing that would hold up that way, just because you would think that the older technology, like the steam buggies and whatnot, would kind of have died out in favor of the more modern stuff within just a year or two of all the time periods colliding. But no, each time period really stayed the way it was. They're just all existing at the same time. This book has all kinds of really awesome illustrations that are going to be in color in the final one, and actually the author apparently worked for Disney and Pixar and DreamWorks, which is really freaking cool. So while I thought the art was really awesome and the concept was pretty clever, I felt, and also the characters are very diverse. Diego, the main character, is biracial and Filipino, and one of the 3 friends that he's traveling around with is a person of color as well. So that's really awesome. But basically, I felt like the writing sort of suffered a little bit because it relied so much on the art to tell the story that it legit left details out of the narrative. So I thought that was kind of weird, but I feel like I feel like this is aimed more towards the younger end of YA. so it's aimed more towards 13-year-olds than towards like 17-year-olds. So I feel like maybe I would have gotten more enjoyment out of this if I was still in my teenage years or something. But I really did appreciate this book a lot. I just felt like there were some weak things about it that could have been better, particularly about the writing. My one audiobook so far this month is The ThreeBody Problem by Cixin Liu, translated by Ken Liu, and this is basically, it takes place during the Cultural Revolution in China, but then some aliens show up through this virtual reality video game thing called ThreeBody, and it turns out that, like, basically when people are playing this game, they're actually going to a world called Trisolaris, and it's really weird. It's a good book, and it has a lot of really genius things about it, but it gets very into the nitty-gritty scientific details of, like, stuff that you really have to be like a huge sci-fi person to, like, more so than me, to really know what any of it even is. So I liked that book. I thought that for the cleverness factor and the concept and all of that stuff, I really liked it, but I felt like we got practically no character depth, and then also, like, listening to people, like, argue about interspecies communism or something like that for, like, an entire chapter. It just got a little bit exhausting, all that stuff. So I really liked it, but I also didn't really enjoy reading it that much, but I really appreciated this book as a whole, so I don't really know how to, like, feel about it. Next, I read Bloodred by Mercedes Lackey, and this is a Little Red Riding Hood retelling that is part of Mercedes Lackey's companion series about people who are elemental mages. And I felt like, because this one, most of the series takes place in sort of Victorian era England and whatnot, but this one randomly took place in Germany and Hungary and Romania, and I felt like this book could have been a lot better if it was just in its own standalone retelling. So as I was reading this, I kept feeling like she was trying to make it really unique and different, but what felt confined by the limits of that series. So I think that it would have just held up better as its own thing without following the magic system of that series. And also I felt like it got really into that typical Red Riding Hood retelling thing where she fights supernatural creatures and all of that, and it's like, yeah, we've seen that in, like, every Red Riding retelling ever. So I still liked it, but it's just not my favorite Mercedes Lackey book ever at all. And finally, I read Swordspoint by Ellen Kushner, and this is the prequel to The Privilege of the Sword that I read a few months ago. They're sort of companion, it's a companion series, so you don't necessarily have to read them in order or anything. And unpopular opinion here, I thought that The Privilege of the Sword was so much better than this one. I felt like this one had very little conflict until about halfway through. We really don't get to know the characters that well. It was kind of just a bunch of standing around talking, and I was really bored. I still really liked it. I liked that everyone is bi. I liked that there's a lot of political intrigue. I like that there's murder and fighting, but I still just felt like not enough happened at all in this book. So there you have it, folks. Those are the books that I read in the first half, like 1/3 or something of September. Let me know what you have read so far this month, and let me know if you've read any of these books and what your thoughts are, and I will see you very soon with a new video. Bye!